The Death Knight Longhaft axe is one of the latest great axes in the game, which is equipped with an interesting skill that hits hard and also a satisfying weapon to use because of its devastating lightning leaping attacks and lightning strikes. In the recent weapon poll, you guys requested this weapon, so here we are. In this video, I'll be guiding you on how to maximize the usage of this weapon, state the possible challenges that this weapon has, and help you overcome them. So ultimately, help you decide if you want to go for this build. I'm the Samurai and I'll be covering the Lightning Emperor's playstyle, the latest equipment for this build along with useful gameplay tips and more. So if you want to get most out of your Death Knight's axe, this video is for you. The Lightning Emperor manipulates the power of lightning to deal with heavy hard-hitting leaping attacks and devastating lightning spears. A build that is versatile thanks to its varying gameplay that will let the user perform in almost any situation in combat. Equipped with strong lightning incantations to deal with the majority of its AoE and range attacks, and punishes its enemies with Death Knight's axes, leaping strikes, and break their stance in the process. The majority of the Lightning Emperor's damage comes from its melee range, so if you want engaging and satisfying melee gameplay with great versatility, this build is for you. Also bear with my audio for this one as we are experiencing heavy thunderstorms currently, so you may hear it in the background. The build playstyle is out of the way, moving on to the Lightning Emperor's stats. Note that I will be standardizing all of my builds around level 200, and it is up to you if you wish to level up the build past around this level. Starting with Vigor first, and I allocated 50 points to Vigor since it is likely that the user will be getting hit while performing both of the weapon's unique skill animations. You can however adjust it to 60 points if you think you really need more health while adjusting to the build's gameplay. Next is Mine, and 29 points were allocated to it. Both of your incantations in this build will require a lot of focus, so you can bump it up to 35 if you wish to. Endurance is next, and I have allotted 30 points for Endurance. This build eats a lot of stamina while performing its greatest movesets. Strength and Fate are going to be the main stats for this build, so I suggest allocating 70 points for each. While we do not need Dexterity, Intelligence, and Arcane for this build. Also, the lightning properties that the Death Knight's axe releases scales from Dexterity. It will be a waste of points to pump Dexterity, and it would be beneficial to concentrate on Strength and Fate in my opinion. By concentrating on Strength and Fate, you will be ensuring that you will be performing optimally in both melee and range combat. Stats are out of the way, let's move on to the Lightning Emperor's equipment. Starting with the build's main weapon, which is the mentioned Death Knight's Longhaft axe. This great axe requires 23 strength, 10 dexterity, and 18 fate to wield the weapon properly. For scaling, having B for strength, E for dexterity, and D for faith, and I wish it could be higher though, and more to this later on. Moving on to the Death Knight's axe unique skill, which is the Blink Bolt's long-hafted axe. Just like the Death Knight's twin axes, pressing L2 will render the user to blink by transforming into a fast-hitting lightning that serves as a gap-closing skill. It is worth noting that while in the middle of the Blink Bolt's animation, the user will be granted iframes. So it is possible to use Blink Bolt while dodging an incoming attack and counter with its available follow-up attacks, and I tried this a bunch of times. Although I am not sure how much iframes this skill provides, but according to my testing, it's not much, and most of the time I need to time it very carefully so I can dodge incoming attacks successfully. Now depending on what the user inputs, pressing R1 will let the user perform a normal light attack combos after the lightning strike. Pressing L2 will let the user perform a violent leaping overhead attack that not only deal great damage but also deal heavy stance damage in the process. After the tip of the axe hits the target, it will summon a lightning strike to deal additional damage. Note that this is going to be your bread and butter damage dealing attacks when in melee range. Moving on to the build's secondary weapon, and we will only be using the Gravelstone Seal for this build. This seal will allow us to access our key buffs for this build and boost our Dragon Cult incantations later on. Weapons are out of the way, let's move on to spells. The first on the list is Flame Grant Me Strength Incantation for an additional 20% physical damage attack boost and stamina recovery buff. The second buff on the list is of course our staple Golden Vow. This buff increases overall damage by 15% and adds 10% damage negation, which is very helpful for this build. Time for the offensive incantation, and the bread and butter range attack for this build is the Knight's Lightning Spear, one of the latest and coolest lightning incantations available. Aside from its desirable damage multipliers, this incantation's phenomenal range provides great versatility in combat. While I also noticed that its fast travel speed can easily hit fast moving targets, it can also make enemies flinch and even deal more stance damage. The gameplay of this build is that you will be casting this incantation whenever the enemy distances itself or when the boss is in the middle of an AoE attack. I usually use this before approaching the boss to deal stance damage and raw damage in the process before I close in and perform my weapon skills. Additionally, its sick animation is truly satisfying to watch, which also embodies the build's overall theme pretty well. The Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike is also suggested for AoE damage. This incantation can also be a powerful tool when dealing with large targets, as most of the lightning strikes will hit the target effectively. Now you may be thinking, hey Samurai, why are you not slotting in more incantations? So the reason is I prefer a much more concentrated or focused gameplay, so 2 to 3 offensive incantations are usually my standards. I find it clunky to use when you have so many incantations to cycle through, but that's just me. You are always welcome to slot in more Dragon Cult incantations as we do have a lot of options to choose from. But before anything else, only 6% of you who watch the channel regularly are subscribed, so help the channel by subscribing today and it's free anyway, and I will thank you forever. If you can hit that like button as well, it will surely help me a lot. Spells are out of the way, moving on to my suggested talismans for this build. The first talisman on the list is our staple Shard of Alexander. This provides a 15% skill damage increase, especially when performing our Blink Bolt skill. Since this build heavily relies on lightning attacks, slotting in Lightning Scorpion Charm for the 12% plus damage it provides in exchange for 10% physical damage taken is suggested. We will be using the Knight's Lightning Spear in this build a lot, so I suggest slotting in Flat Canvas Talisman, as this talisman increases the potency of your incantations by 8%. As always, you can easily replace Flat Canvas Talisman with Dragon Crest Great Shield for the additional 20% physical damage negation. It will increase your overall survivability, especially if you are not used to the build's playstyle. The last talisman for this build is the mandatory Two-Headed Turtle Talisman. As mentioned previously, all of your movesets in this build eats a lot of stamina, and depleting your stamina is a regular thing if you are cranking out the damage per opening. Moving on to Great Runes, and I suggest slotting in Godric's Great Rune for the additional 5 stats across the board. Now the main equipment is out of the way, let's move on to the Lightning Emperor's armor set. I'm going for this strong Emperor looking theme, so I equipped the Elden Crown for the headpiece, Clean Rod for the armor piece, gauntlets, and greaves. With this combination, I nailed the looks that I was going for. If you don't care about the looks and you want to optimize your damage further, wearing the full Death Knight set for an additional 8% damage bonus for the Dragon Cult incantations is suggested. Moving on to my Flask of Wonders physique combination, Lightning Shroud and Crack Tear is a no-brainer for this build, and since this build is stamina hungry, pairing it with Green Burst Crystal Tear is suggested. But if you want to take advantage of burst damage, replacing Green Burst Crystal Tear with Stonebarb Crack Tear is suggested. By doing a lot of stance damage, you can take out enemies quickly and gain the upper hand easily. Equipment and spells are out of the way, it's time for the build's pros and cons. Starting with the pros first. The first advantage that I can think of is the build's versatility and dynamic gameplay. Juggling between the Knight's Lightning Spear in range combat and closing in with a Blink Bolt skill is simply a fun way to play. As mentioned, casting Knight's Lightning Spear is going to be your usual thing when dealing damage at range, but it eats a lot of focus in the process. But the Blink Bolt skill only costs 13 focus per use, so when juggling between attacks, you will retain a healthy focus points management. Dealing great stance damage is one of the greatest strengths of this build. By using the Blink Bolt's overhead attack, you can burst down enemies easily, and if you can take advantage of your burst opener effectively. Now moving on to the cons. I find Blink Bolt overhead attack deals decent to good damage but not really that high tier. Now you might not notice this when playing in the DLC, but once you use it in the base game, you can easily see its damage. I was expecting more given the stamina cost of this skill, and I am hoping for a little bit of buff in the future. I'm not saying it's trash, just don't expect that it will be top tier in terms of damage. Additionally, when dealing with fast moving humanoid targets that have a quick or fast sidestepping ability like Melania for example, there were many occasions that I am missing a lot. Again, you will not notice this on regular bosses, especially when dealing with the large ones. The last thing that I can think of is how stamina draining this setup can be when performing full combos. But you can only notice this as well if you are cranking out the highest damage possible per opening. Overall, the Lightning Emperor is a decent and fun build to play which offers dynamic gameplay, offering great options in both melee and ranged combat. Players who love to roleplay as a Thunder God will surely love this build. Comment down below which weapon would you like me to do next, and if you made it this far, I just want to say that I appreciate you. Join our Discord server as we are building an empire where you can find like-minded people and also post all the latest updates on our Discord channel. As always, thank you for watching, and giving this video a like helps me a lot. And subscribe for more builds coming soon. Now if you want to shred enemies like butter or learn how to build the strongest build currently in Elden Ring, these build videos are for you. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.